Philadelphia Eagles get a big victory today out there in Detroit. Philadelphia beats the Detroit Lions 44-6. A big victory for the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, this is a team that has been struggling over the past few weeks, but they finally put it all together today against the Detroit Lions. This team was on a 2-game winning streak, had lost 5 of their last 6 after winning and defeating the Atlanta Falcons in week 1. But now the Eagles get a big victory in Detroit. The Lions coming into this game were winless, and it showed. The Detroit Lions are not a very good football team, and that is clear. That is evident. That is obvious that the Detroit Lions are not a good football team. But the Philadelphia Eagles, give them a lot of credit. I mean, this team is 2-5 coming into this one. They're now 3-5, and they have the Los Angeles Chargers next week. So before you know it, maybe things could be looking up for the Philadelphia Eagles. But anyway, the Detroit Lions are not good. And this was a team that struggled against the run. I believe it was 21st against the run. That's not awful, but that's not good either. And this was a team that you were able to run the football against. And the Eagles ran the football right down their throats. 236 yards on the ground, 4 rushing touchdowns. I mean, so they did pretty much what they wanted on both sides of the ball in terms of the line of scrimmage. The Philadelphia Eagles dominated the line of scrimmage against the Detroit Lions. It was not even close. Their domination of the line of scrimmage. They were able to get after Jared Goff and had no issue, no problem getting after Jared Goff. They had no issue, no problem sacking Jared Goff. I mean, they lived in the backfield. 7 sacks for the Philadelphia Eagles today. 6 sacks for the Eagles today. And, so Josh Sweat got 2. I mean, Milton Williams got 1. Ridgeway got 1. Barnett got 1. I mean, so everybody got in on the action tonight against Jared Goff. And get it, they had no issue, no problem getting in that backfield. They had no issue, no problem staying in that backfield, and they had no issue, no problem, keeping Jared Goff uncomfortable throughout this football game. Look, the Eagles made a concerted effort to run the football with Jordan Howard and Boston Scott, and of course Jalen Hurts. He had some scrambles as well, but they made a concerted effort to run the football with Scott, with Howard, with Gainwell, and with Jalen Hurts and some of his scrambles. So they ran the football, and they ran the football right down the Lions' throat. I mean, they ran it down their throat. So again, there was no problems. There was no resistance from the Detroit Lions today. And the Philadelphia Eagles now move to 3-5 and have an opportunity. Hey, who knows? The first part of this Eagles schedule was very difficult. This was a tough schedule they had, their first part. I mean, the first part of Philly's schedule was very, very difficult. And so for them to get off to the start that they've gotten off to, it's not surprising when you consider the schedule that they had. So let's look at that. Look at the early part of their schedule. Look at the early part of the Eagles' schedule. I mean, the early part of their schedule was not good in terms of the difficulty. I mean, the early part of the schedule, you played Atlanta, and they won, but you had San Francisco next, who's a solid football team, Dallas, Kansas City, Carolina, who they beat. But at the time, Carolina, I believe, was 3-2. Then you had Tampa Bay, Las Vegas, and then, of course, it led up now with the Lions. But after this, right, you got the Chargers, who are beatable. You got at Denver, which is winnable. You got New Orleans coming to the link, winnable. At the Giants, winnable. At the Jets, again, 2 winnable games there. And then you finish off in the NFC East, Washington, New York, Washington, and then Dallas. I mean, there's some winnable games for the Eagles, and maybe they can find a way to turn this thing around and put themselves in position to ultimately get to the playoffs, right? I said the playoffs. I doubt that's going to happen, but hey, I just threw it out there. Why not? But hey, anything is possible. But again, this is a game that they can grow on. I've always said when I look at this Eagles defense, they're not as good as what they played, what they were earlier in the season in terms of, against Atlanta. They held the Falcons to 6 points. They held the 49ers to 11 points. Those first 2 weeks of the season, the defense played very, very well and was very solid in the first couple of weeks of the season. Then it kind of fell apart, and they started to play some very good quarterbacks. I mean, you started to play a Dak Prescott. You played a Patrick Mahomes. You played a Tom Brady. And you played Derek Carr, who's having a solid season for Las Vegas. So you played some decent quarterbacks. And obviously, when this defense went up against some decent quarterbacks, they were not very good. But now, I mean, against a Jared Goff, uh, average quarterback, but a guy who really had no line help. I mean, he was under pressure, under duress throughout this whole football game. I mean, he really didn't have an opportunity to do much in this particular game. So, in terms of what happened today and how he played and how he fared, I mean, it wasn't all on him. Obviously, he's the quarterback, so he gets much of the blame, but it wasn't all on him. I mean, Jared Goff had a hard, he didn't have no time back there. Had a hard time getting time. And so, it wasn't all his fault, but, Detroit is, I will say this, we could say this was a game maybe the Eagles should have won, which they did. But I will say this about the Lions football team. This Lions football team has actually played hard. If you look at Detroit and their schedule and the way that, some of the games they lost, I mean, lost to the 49ers in week 1, 41-33, but they were in that. I mean, Baltimore, they lost by 2. You look at Minnesota, they lost by 2. Los Angeles last week, they were in that game as well. So it's not like this team hasn't played hard. This is the first time, though, they really were just stomped out. I mean, they were stomped out in this one. I mean, Cincinnati beat them up a little bit, but I mean, this game, they were stomped out, and they didn't have much of a shot in this one, and they were beat up and beat down from the beginning to the end. So give the Eagles a lot of credit coming into this one. The Eagles were struggling. The Eagles needed a pick-me-up. The Eagles needed a win. The Eagles needed to get right. And Detroit allowed them to get right, and they got right. I mean, they got real right in this particular contest. And now the Eagles, again, get this victory, and the Eagles move to 3-5. So let's talk about what we loved in this one. Let's talk about what we liked. Obviously, we liked the decision to run the football and to run the football on a consistent basis in this one. I mean, the Eagles made a decision to run the football, and they ran the football down the Lions' throat. You look at the Eagles, and, they ran the ball 46 times. So they ran the ball 46 times, 236 yards, 5 yards a clip. So they made an effort, and they stuck to it. They said, we were running the football. That was the game plan. And they ran the football, and they stayed to running the football. They didn't stop running the football. They kept running the football and kept running the football. And ultimately, them being able to run the football the way they did, they were able to control the clock, obviously. They were able to just get up and down the field and had no issues getting up down the field. You look at the Eagles in terms of, this was a team that just kept scoring and scoring and scoring and scoring. I mean, and the scoring started there in that first quarter where they had a touchdown there, right? 7-0. Then they scored again on the field goal, scored again on the touchdown. Halftime, they scored again once they got the ball, and they scored again once they got the ball back, and they scored one more time, this time on defense. Big play. Slay made a big play in terms of the ball, fumble, returning for a touchdown. So they scored the football, whether it was on offense, whether it was on defense, and they had no problem doing it. So now the Eagles, this is, again, I'm not saying, look, this team is a team that's a work in progress. The Philadelphia Eagles are a work in progress at this point. And they're a team that, we're not expecting them to go to the playoffs. I don't think anybody expected this team to make the playoffs. I don't think anybody expected this team to contend. I don't think anybody expected any of that when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles. I think what people, just the past few weeks, it's just the way they played against the Raiders, where they allowed the Raiders to go up and down the field with no issue, no problem, with little resistance, didn't blitz, didn't do anything on the defensive end, and let the Raiders just pretty much do what they wanted to do. It was a simple situation for the Raiders. The Raiders had an easy game against the Eagles. And so the fan base and everybody was upset about how easy it was for the Raiders, and just the Eagles not doing anything on the defensive end in terms of any type of trickery, any type of different things in terms of blitzes or anything of that nature. The Eagles didn't do anything different on the defensive end. They just kept taking it and taking it and taking it. And this today, I mean, obviously it helps when your front four is able to get after the quarterback. It makes everything look better. It makes the defense look everybody. Makes the linebackers look better. Makes the secondary look better. It looks better for everybody when you're getting after the quarterback. And you're getting after the quarterback with your front four. You're getting after the quarterback without having to bring anybody extra. You're getting after the quarterback without having to expose some of your guys on some of your corners on the outside. So everything looks better when you're getting after the quarterback and you're hitting the quarterback and you're sacking the quarterback and you're making the quarterback's life miserable. Everything looks better when that is going down. And that's the way it went down for the Philadelphia Eagles. That's the way it went down for the Philadelphia Eagles. And again, they are victors this week. And it's been a long time since the Philadelphia, it seems like a long time since the Eagles won a game, but it's only been 2 weeks. I mean, it's only they lost 2 straight, but reality is they've lost 5 of their last 6. So they've done a lot of losing since what happened in week 1 against the Atlanta Falcons. But again, I mean, Nick Sirianni can build on this. Jonathan Gannon can build on this. The defense, everybody can build on what we saw here today. Jalen Hurts didn't have to do much in terms of throwing the football. Didn't have to do much in terms of that. He used a lot of what we saw with Jalen Hurts was his legs. So he didn't have to use his legs. His arm bunch today. In fact, he threw the ball 14 times against the Detroit Lions today. So he didn't have to throw the ball much. 9 for 14, 103 yards. So he did what he needed to do. But this came down to the Eagles' ability to run the football. And again, anytime in the NFL, you're able to run the ball for over 200 yards, and you're able to get 4 touchdowns on the ground, more than likely, and you're able to get 6 sacks on defense, more than likely, you're going to win. And that's what happened here with the Eagles. They controlled the game was won in the trenches, and the Philadelphia Eagles won this game in the trenches. They won it with their ability to get after the quarterback. They won it with their ability to run the football at ease and at will with Jordan Howard and Boston Scott. They won it the old-fashioned way in a lot of ways. And so, again, and you can say, well, Paul, this is the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions stink. Yes, they stink. They're 0-8. So they're 0-8 for a reason. But again, they have been very competitive. They've been very competitive this season. It's not like this Lions team has rolled over. Detroit has not rolled over this season. Yes, they're not good, but they haven't rolled over. And, you know, we could talk about Dan Campbell and some of the things he's done, said, and the way he's acted at times, you know, at some of his press conferences, things of that nature. But this team really has played hard. They really have played hard this season. And this maybe was the first time where you're saying, well, it doesn't look like they're playing hard today. And they just got – and the Eagles are not a good football team, a great football team either. But they came in and they stopped it. But if you look at Detroit, right? And let me throw their schedule up here real quick. You look at Detroit and, you know, what they've done at home and how they played teams at home, right? I mean, they've done a decent job playing teams at home. So look at Detroit. Look at it, right? 49ers in Detroit lost. I mean, they beat Detroit 41-33, a close game. Baltimore in Detroit, you know how Baltimore won that game at the end where Justin Tucker hit that incredible field goal and Lamar Jackson made that incredible pass on 4th down and everything. But they played Baltimore tough. They lost 19-17. That was in Detroit. They got blown out kind of by Cincinnati at home. But outside of that, they played hard at home and played teams tough at home. So, you know, to me, that's what makes this victory for the Eagles. I'm not saying super impressive because it's an 0-8 football team and a team that has not won, but it adds something. It's something. It's a building block. It's something. And when you're 3-5, when you're 2-5 coming into this game, and you know you got a young football team, a young head coach in Nick Sirianni, a young quarterback in Jalen Hurts, young wide receivers in Rager and Smith, right? And you know you got a lot of young around this football team, and when you have a lot of young around a football team, you need to get them confidence any way you can. And the Eagles, a win over the Detroit Lions gives them confidence. It gives them confidence. And again, I said this before, I'll say it again. At 3-5, the schedule does loosen up for the Eagles at this point. I'm not saying they're good enough to string together a bunch of wins. I'm not saying that, but I'm also not saying it's not possible. It's not possible. Impossible, excuse me. I'm not saying it's not impossible for the Eagles to string some wins. I mean, let's get their schedule up again. Let me show you their schedule one more time. So you don't think I'm crazy, but again, after this, they have the Los Angeles Chargers winnable football game at the Link. That's winnable. At Denver. Denver is struggling right now. Winnable football game. New Orleans. New Orleans are no world beaters. Winnable football game for the Eagles. Winnable, winnable, winnable. You got the Jets and the Giants the next weeks after that. Winnable. And then you look at, they finished pretty much with the division, Washington, New York, Washington, and then Dallas. All those games are winnable. So I'm not saying they're going to go make the playoffs. I'm not jumping out of the window like that. I ain't doing that. But I'm not saying it's out of the realm of possibility that the Eagles find a way to string some wins together. Right now, they're 3-5. You look at the schedule, there are some wins here. Let's just go with the premise that, okay, they'll split with Washington and split with the Giants. Let's just go with that premise. Let's just run with that. That's 5 wins there, right? And then you look at Los Angeles, that could be a win. Denver could be a win. That could be 6-7 wins. And maybe you get Dallas last game of the season. Who knows? But maybe this team can win 8 or 9 games. Is that enough to get to the playoffs? I don't think so. But 8 or 9 wins for this football team, that's a win. 8 or 9 wins for the Eagles is thumbs up. That's a good season for this football team. 8 or 9 wins. Because the talent level in this roster defensively is not that great. The talent level in this roster offensively, I think it's decent. But obviously, you got some injuries on the offensive line. But the talent level on the offense isn't that bad. The talent level defensively needs some improving. And clearly, next year, they'll have some draft picks to be able to improve the roster. They'll have a bunch of draft picks to be able to improve the roster. So the Eagles will be, they're in a good position if, Carson Wentz continues to play. I believe I forgot, 90% of snaps or something, maybe 75%. I'm not sure, 100% sure of the percentages, but I'm off the top of my head. But if Carson Wentz, plays a certain percentage of snaps, the Eagles can get a first-round pick there. They got the Dolphins' first-round pick, and the Dolphins are not a very good football team. They're 1-7, I believe, 1-6, I believe. They lost to Buffalo today. So the Eagles have an opportunity, to get a bunch of draft picks and, get high draft picks. Dolphins are 1-7 at this point. The Eagles have an opportunity to get a bunch of high draft picks and turn this situation around. It could turn around as soon as next year if they get the right cast of characters. Now you got to wonder, Howie Roseman is the guy doing the drafting. And when Howie Roseman is doing the drafting, you got to have a level of concern because we've seen some of the things and some of the people that he has drafted. DK Metcalf should be on this roster. Justin Jefferson should be on this roster. There are a lot of people that should be on this roster that are not on this roster. So the Eagles, again, Howie Roseman is the guy doing the drafting. And if he can, they're going to be in position to maybe get a few impact players. And if not that, in position to be able to trade to get some impact players. So the Eagles are not in a bad spot. Obviously, we're not expecting much from this football team this year, and I don't think anybody was expecting much from this team this year. But they are, if you look at it, not in an awful position. And also, if you look at it, hey, anything is possible. Maybe they can string some things together and be respectable this season. They're at 3-5, and again, the schedule does let up. And so with the schedule letting up, maybe, just maybe, they could steal a few here or steal a few there and get to 8 to 9 wins. And again, I said before, that's a win for this team. But, the biggest thing they have to figure out is who is going to be their quarterback. Is it Jalen Hurts? Is Jalen Hurts going to be their quarterback for the duration? Is he going to be their quarterback for the rest? Is he their franchise quarterback? If you believe Jalen Hurts is your franchise quarterback, you're in an even better position because you don't have to worry about the quarterback position in the draft. And you can focus on building up this defense, which needs to be built up. This defense needs to be built up, and they have to find a way to build this defense and make this defense better and get some more impact players on the defensive side of the football. Offensively, there is a lot of young. I think Devontae Smith is going to be good. Yeah, I think he's going to be good. We had to figure out, Quez Watkins, definitely a guy who's been a deep threat for this football team this year and a guy who's made some plays. But we got to figure out the situation. Jalen Reagor got hurt today. It's just we don't know what Jalen Reagor is going to be. And again, I said that before. Reagor should be Justin Jefferson, but that's irrelevant at this point because the reality is that the Eagles made the decision that they made, and Jalen Reagor is in Philadelphia, and Justin Jefferson's in Minnesota. But I think, offensively, it's not that bad. I mean, Mailata, we seem to have found the left tackle of the future at some level. I mean, Andre Dillard was decent when he got in, and when Lane Johnson was out, Dillard went to the left, Mailata went to the right. It wasn't that bad, So, Miles Sanders, I know he got hurt, but Miles Sanders is a building block. He's a weapon and, hasn't been really utilized the way maybe he should be utilized, but he is a weapon. He's a guy. He's a building block. So there's a lot of building blocks here in Philadelphia. They just got, there's building blocks, but again, and they're going to be in a great position. They got some cap space as well. So they got cap space. They got draft assets. They got a lot of things working in their favor where, obviously this year is probably not going to be where they want it to be, and that's okay. That's what's kind of expected. But going forward, let's figure out what Jalen. I heard some people say, well, maybe they should go to Gardner Minshew, if Hurts continues to struggle, yada, yada, yada. It's not about that for me. It's about you figuring out if Jalen Hurts is going 2021 to me, it's just my opinion. 2021 is to me finding out what Jalen Hurts is. Is he a backup? Is he a low-level starter? Or is he a franchise quarterback? I have my doubts on what he can be. I'm not saying he's not garbage. I don't think Jalen Hurts is garbage, but I'm not saying he's a franchise quarterback. At this point, I'm saying he's a low-level starter. That's just my opinion at this point. But again, a lot can change, and the guy is still progressing, still playing. He's still new in this league. We could say it's his second year, but this is his 10th, 11th start in his career. So again, he's still growing, he's still learning, and he's still trying to become the quarterback that they want him to be. But here's the bottom line. At the end of the day, the Philadelphia Eagles win 40-46. They beat the Detroit Lions. Philadelphia moves to 3-5, 236 yards on the ground, 4 touchdowns, sacked Jared Goff 6 times, and now the Eagles head on home and host the Los Angeles Chargers at the Link. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and we'll be back here next week as the Eagles battle the Los Angeles Chargers. See you later. Take care. Bye.